Hi guys, quick update here for YouTube for Bitcoin, 20th of January 2023 Friday. So we did set out a warning about 9 days ago. Probably not a good idea to be too bearish here, and now we've got this little bit of a short squeeze. I think best case scenario we could run as high as about 36k by the end of March, if not by the sort of first week, second week of April, and then probably we're gonna have an almighty crash, led down or followed by which the S&P and the Nasdaq probably roll over for their capitulation low. Under no circumstances do I feel this is a 1-2 count all the way to 100,000. This we are still in a secular bear market, and this is simply a cyclical bull market. Yeah, so secular bear, which is all of this. Secular bear, and for which we're having a cyclical bull, much like we did here. This was all a bear market, all of this from here to here. Secular bear market lasted about 2 years, but in the midst of that, we got a huge move from 3k to 14k. Now, we are actually moving at twice the speed that we were moving here. Which is why I'm saying 36k by the end of March. So we are moving here pretty fast. Now, a few things on the on-chain which help to confirm that. We're in the blue zone, so we're in that sweet spot around 400 days to the next halving, and we know historically when in the blue zone we do get some kind of bounce. Net unrealized profit and loss, very, very similar looking chart to how it was from here basically. So it's December 18 to June 19. So we are still in the capitulation, not even in hope and fear mode here. People are very pessimistic. Anyone who's bearish here longer term, like my main man Marlon Brando, who's having a really hard time here, eventually all the bears are going to be right. So I've called for 8k, and we did statistical analysis on YouTube to say that the 3k lows could get tagged. So eventually the bears are going to be right. It's just that you have to go with the flow. Because otherwise you're going to end up missing a huge move here. Like we mentioned, this coin going to $9. Now everyone's on this coin. We caught 100% move on this coin, right, from here to here. I just think it's consolidating here, ready for its next move. Minimum that goes to $2. Okay, so there's great opportunity here to be in the altcoins. Bitcoin is barely up 20%. This is up 100% since we made that call, which was here. So that's all documented on the YouTube channel. It was 9 days ago. It was on the 11th of January that we released that video there, and obviously we're up massively. And I don't think it's done. I think it's just consolidating, ready for the next move. Anyway, getting back to my main man, Al Pacino over here. I actually really like his work, so I'm not going to diss the guy. I think I've got great respect for anyone who comes on YouTube or on Twitter, gathers as substantial following and makes a call. But to me, I can't call this bearish at all. I think longer term we are bearish, definitely, and at best it's 36k, but you have to accept that this looks very, very similar to this. Yeah, very, very similar. Just going back here, we have a long way to go. So the on-chain net unrealized profit and loss makes us think it's a very much like early 2019. The stock to flow model, we know historically there's some kind of bounce, and finally the fear and greed, we're up 51 going on to 26, and very similar to here, we're kind of like here, somewhere around here, 51.61, but we know this can get as high as 95, so we're nowhere near that euphoric peak. Right here it got to 95. I'm sure here is pretty high. Obviously, there was no data prior to 2017, and here I wouldn't be surprised if it was well above 80, which it kind of got to here, kind of double topped. So I think there's more room to go here to the upside. I wouldn't be getting too bearish here still. Coinbase and GBTC and Riot, we called all the lows in all of those stocks. Obviously Coinbase is pulling back here, and it's an incredibly volatile market because of the short squeeze and gamma situation. The gamma adds to the short squeeze. This kind of move should usually take a month, but it's taken a week. It's taken 7 trading days because Monday doesn't count. Monday was a bank holiday. So you have no choice but to change your opinion twice as quick as you would have done otherwise, okay? Because the volatility has doubled. even since 2 years ago. We know it's doubled since 2008, but it's doubled even since 2 years ago. This move shouldn't be occurring in the space of 7 trading days. So you have no choice to go with the flow. I still maintain this is possibly a decade low. That's like buying Facebook in 2010 at $22. Certain, stocks, they're never going to see their lows ever again. I can't imagine this pulling all the way back. They might be a bit cheeky and pull it back to around 40 or so, but ultimately, that's going to go to 67 by March, and I'm surprised at how quickly everything's moving. Anyway, back to Bitcoin then. So we think we're in a bullish rally here. We mentioned on the last video, there's obvious stops resting above here. So anyone who's sold here, there's nothing wrong with that. I still get the feeling people are rather skeptical and rather pessimistic of a move. You know how the cycle works. So there's pessimism, skepticism, optimism, and euphoria. Euphoria would be well above 30k, 36k. Optimism about 27.5k. People are quite skeptical right up until around, I would say, as long as we're underneath these lows, people are going to be rather skeptical. So we can rush through these cycles here pretty quick, because Bitcoin usually does this. Yeah? So we get through S to O to E very, very quick, but we can remain in this pessimistic, cynical kind of zone here for quite some time. But you have to look at the price action. Yeah? So regardless of, your feelings on how bearish everything is, and I am just as bearish, by the way. So, this can easily go to 8k. This is not a long-term hold till it goes to 8k. After that, I've extrapolated targets to 854,000. But this is not the move to 854,000. So anyway, that looks like a 1-2, probably a 4-5, and then something like that. Like I said, we're going to churn higher here. This may consolidate here for a little while, but that's good. It's building value. Time and volume is building out the profile here, possibly until the end of the month, and then we get the next move up in February. So my feeling is not to get too bearish on Bitcoin here. I don't think that's the best idea. I think once we get above 30k, then yes, there is the possibility of an almighty crash, because if we zoom out enough, just like this was a WXY, so of course that was what we think is that was never a 1-2. Anyone calling that a 1-2 has lost a lot of money here, thinking this is a wave 4 relative to that. So A, B, C, right? Whether it's an X wave or a B wave, it doesn't really matter. They're effectively the same thing. There is still an almighty crash coming here. I mean, we could go 36k, 8k in the space of, well, depending on how quick it gets, maybe 6 months, maybe 9 months. So there's definitely something setting up here, and certainly the S&P. We've not had that capitulation moment. The more you look at this, I mean, it's just setting up, isn't it? A, B, C, 1-2, 1-2. Maybe they'll drag this out to the end of Q1. We're just setting up a summer fall dump here, aren't we? And then it's time to buy. 2,300. NASDAQ is very, very similar too. Anyway, we have to go with the flow. The market is very volatile, so you have no choice but to go with the flow. Moves are now occurring in half the amount of time that they were before. Now, longer term, we have told the group many, many years ago, what feels like years ago, is about 7-8 months ago when we were well above 5,000, we're going to go sub 500, right? So this, to me, is an interim ABC. And this is, I think, can get easily to 2k. I don't think 2k is the short, but I would be shorting this roughly 2,100. This can still extend. That is just an ABC within a larger B wave or an X wave, and then we come back down again. So, we are setting up a gigantic crash. So anyone who's calling a crash is correct, I think. I don't think this is a move towards 24,000. We know what the long-term target is. It's 24,000, but I don't think this is the big move towards 24,000 just yet. This is a bit of a trap. So we are bullish until proven otherwise. I would say until the end of Q1. So who's going to go broke here? Anyone who's watching this video 1 week before the end of Q1, who's buying above 2k, and let's be honest, psychological numbers play a huge part. We kind of tagged 2k there, but it looks as though we want to run those stops and then test some of this pivot level action up here. So that makes a good headline. So if you're watching this video 1 week before Q1, probably not a good idea to go long. I think an almighty crash is coming here after Q1. Q2, Q3, this could literally dump from 2100 to sub 500, and that is really the time to buy Ethereum. We're still looking at sub 500 here, just like we're looking at sub 10k Bitcoin. So that's my take on Ethereum. That's it really. So I think we can get to about 2100, and obviously I am bullish on Ethereum BTC, which helps to support that. It's been consolidating here for a very, very long time. I still think there's a possibility of a flip. I don't really think the flip is relevant to anything right now. It just means eventually at some point Ethereum may become number one. I don't think it's relevant. They obviously both move up together and they move down together. So that's it really. I don't really think there's much else to sort of say. So let's swing it back here to Bitcoin. Are there any gaps in the futures? And we know about the gaps in the futures around 34k. Certainly we highlighted that when it was down here, that is a potential area. I mean, there's a huge gap there. So, this could easily fill out the gap. So I'm saying 36k by the end of March. But there's a gap here at 30k before then. Then there's another gap here at 35k. So I think we can easily go as high as that. Right? So I know it doesn't look it right now, but that is bullish consolidation here. That is effectively a bull flag of some description, right? And people are looking to short this, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with trading the move. We do have to be careful here. We are still in a bear market, but my feeling is it's very, very similar to this, where it consolidated, ripped up, consolidated, then ripped up, and then topped. And 14k was a bit of a shock and awe price. Right now, 22k isn't shocking anyone. Now, 36k, that would be a shock, especially if it occurs, I think, before the end of Q1. So that's my take. I don't think there's anything more to update. That's the situation. So I would say I'm bullish till the end of Q1, 36k, and then an almighty crash later on this year. I do think eventually everything's set up later on this year for risk assets to have a big capitulation moment. I'm not happy with the S&P. I don't think it's anywhere near a bottom, any kind of investable swing trade bottom, and I don't think the Qs, we're still looking at the 200 here on the Qs, and obviously we're going off the Nasdaq futures we've highlighted here about 7 months ago. Eventually the Qs have to trade this level here. They just have to. It's 8k on the futures, but they could drag this out. I'm on the 2-week chart here, by the way. They could drag this out easily till the end of Q1, and then they do this, and this move here, that's the capitulation. And then finally we've got some kind of a, then like the, something like that basically. So this would be, I don't know, 10k Bitcoin, sub 500 Ethereum. So that's what I'm looking at. Now, the other thing I wanted just to mention here is obviously we've been very bullish on the pound. I mean, the pound has made a lifetime low. It's very hard to see anyone live long enough now to see a new low on there. Even if you're in your teens, it's going to be very hard. That is a lifetime buy there. We called that on the day it occurred. We've been around the pound long enough to know it does this. It does a random flash crash, and it's all over the media, and you just buy it. It's going straight to 150. There's no doubt about that. But the reason that's important is the dollar index. So the big sell-off, 36k, 10k Bitcoin, we would think would come alongside a huge rally here in the dollar index, right? So dollar index, like I said, it could continue lower here until the end of Q1. This little move here, this big rally from, let's say, sub 100 back up to 110, that could be the big sell-off in risk assets. Then we move back down again, and then obviously we can figure it out after that. I don't see the dollar making a new high here for quite some time. That doesn't look like a very good chart. You could easily read 5 waves into that, which means we're now going to correct everything. So that is a 08 to 22. What's that? 14 years. So 14 years of price action is going to get corrected. So, and it's coming down in quite a vicious little ABC. But anyway, that's my take with the dollar. I think you can easily go to the mid-range or the midline or the 50% fib. That comes in at around 90, and that corresponds obviously with the 50% fib there too. So I think a move down to eventual 90 would be important. Worst case scenario, dollar's in for some real pain here because there's a descending channel on here. We could go much, much lower here, but I don't want to make that call right now. There's still a euro-dollar issue, but clearly the whole, kind of makes you think, we're going to eventually go into a new monetary system here. We could do something like this. It could get really bad. I think that's nailed on, though. We're definitely going to hit the midline of this channel. And obviously, I can extend this channel back to 1970. So you kind of get the point. Hits that low and it kind of gets you up there. So worst case scenario, this is a decade top. And, you're never going to see that high ever again. Just like it took you 20 years to see a new high here. So basically, we could just do this. So we could just copy this entire fractal here. So how long did that last? 0 to... 8 years. So that lasted about 8 years. So you see, worst case scenario, dollar's in for a real hard time. Which, once again, the dollar's falling. You don't want to get too bearish here. I'm talking to Marlon Brando right now, okay? I know you've been watching my video since 20k and crash, mate. So, poor guy, getting a hard time. But I do like his work, and, I think people who are giving him some abuse are... probably a little bit uncalled for, but then again, there's a lot of decisions that have to get made. I suppose you're only as good as your last trade or your last tweet, I suppose. Anyway, that's my take on Bitcoin. So if you want to join the group, you know what to do. There's various courses on there. Hopefully we'll get a part 2 to the mortgage course at some point, Q3, Q4. But that's my feeling. You don't want to get too bearish here, and obviously have a look at Singularity. These are the coins that we're kind of looking at here. I don't want to give too much away. That is great outperformance there, isn't it? Right? So this is what you want to see. So even though it's a bear market, there's great opportunity here. This basically means AGIX outperforming BTC. Does that not look like a 1? Does that not look like a 2? Are we not in the third of the third? So that can go much higher. That can go to 8,000 sats, I think. So anyway, there's great opportunity. I'm going to leave it there. I would be bullish here till the end of Q1. Then I would be very careful. I think eventually the market does roll over, but we need to get people very euphoric like we did in the summer of 19. When I call this top here, I call this top and I call this top. Very, very cautious. These two tops looked exactly the same. Went range bound. The altcoins popped off. Then it's time to just get out of the way. Eventually we rolled over. So you can easily see a situation where we go... 36k, go sideways for 1 quarter, perhaps, and then literally out of nowhere, S&P is going to go down somewhere near to about 2.5k, and that's the low. And then we've bottomed. Then we've got to 8k. That's our target, somewhere between 10k and 3k, and then we've got our low, and then we can have a really big rally here, potentially even 6 months before the halving. Right now we're about a year away, so that's my current take. I think cautiously bullish is the way I'll end it there. Anyway, I'll wrap it up there. Catch you guys soon.